Thank you so much for the intro, Monica. Really appreciate you guys having me here today. And I guess I can just get started. I can go ahead and share my screen and let me know if you can't see it, but I'll go ahead and share. One moment. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Let me minimize everything else so I can see it. But okay, I'll go ahead. I have the live chat up. I know that you said that you'll be monitoring it, so I'll just go ahead and walk through the slides. And there's a lot of slides, but I'm not going to be going into depth on all of them. But I'll go ahead and introduce myself. This will be a talk on networking tips from an LinkedIn Insights Analyst. That's me. I'm a Insights Analyst at LinkedIn. I started, and I'll go into my bio. I am from Boston, Massachusetts. So I grew up there and I went to college there as well. And I got a Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering from MIT, like Monica said. And then I spent 3 years in the oil and gas industry in Louisiana. Kind of tried out the chemical engineering thing. And then I realized it wasn't really for me, but I didn't know what I wanted to do next. So I went and traveled actually for a year and a half around the world to about 20 different countries as I figured out what do I want to do next with my life instead of just jumping in. So I think having that break really helped me. Unfortunately, in Louisiana, it was pretty easy to save money. So it worked out. But like Monica said, I was a self-taught data professional. As I was traveling, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I met some people who were doing sort of remote jobs in data, in software engineering, things like that, where they only needed their laptops. And I was like, I want to do whatever they're doing. And so I picked up Udemy and Coursera and stuff like that and tried to figure out what skills I would need to be a data professional. And I really enjoyed doing it. And I wasn't being paid. I was doing it for free on my free time. And I realized if I get a paycheck and I'm doing this, this is probably something that I will enjoy doing. So I went ahead and started applying to jobs. But before even applying to jobs, I got into DS4A, the empowerment program, and I was a fellow in the 2.0 program. And then I actually just recently finished being a TA in the 3.0 program, the empowerment program. So just really being a part of this DS4A Correlation 1 family for about a year now and really enjoying it. But as I applied to jobs, I was able to land a job at LinkedIn as an Insights Analyst. I'm currently in New York, but still loving the fact that I can be hybrid remote. I really only go into the office when I want free food and to hang out with people, but it's not a requirement. So that's definitely something that I really do not take for granted at all, loving the hybrid remote life. So I'll go to the next slide. So for today, I'll go into, I'll add my own spin to online networking and best practices for using LinkedIn from the perspective of someone who works at LinkedIn, but I'll also throw in my own perspective of having gone through the job process and then some of the work that I do at LinkedIn. So it'll be kind of like an all-in talk about LinkedIn and online networking and me as an Insights Analyst. Monica, am I okay with the time and the speed and everything like that?
Yes, so far so
okay.
Good.
Okay, perfect. All right, so for today's agenda, I'll be going through a few different questions. So what does networking really mean and why is it important? I'll be talking about how to build your LinkedIn profile, how to find connections. I know some of you have already started connecting with me, so that's great. How to have informational conversations and how to use LinkedIn to find conferences and events. So I don't know if they can annotate, so I'll go ahead and skip this section, but we'll go into it at the end during the Q&A about how you guys actually feel about networking. So some common misconceptions about networking is that it's really uncomfortable. It's a lot of people are afraid of networking. They feel like there's always this conversation loop where you're asking, how are you? And they're saying, I'm doing well. And they're like, how are you? And then you're just like kind of going back and forth and not getting anywhere. A lot of people feel like you're not having a real conversation if you're only talking professionally or about work, that person's actual career. And so that sort of takes away the fun of just having a conversation. So I'll go into the next slide, but networking is really about building professional relationships over time. And I'll talk about the over time part a little bit more later, but it's not about let's go into a room for 10 minutes and I leave with a job and I leave with 10 different connections. It's about relationships over time, like months, years sometimes, where you're just building relationships with people instead of just what can this person do for me. So using DS4A, using the Columbia program, using the entire Correlation One community, that's networking. At any point when you're talking to someone who's done a DS4A program, who's connected with Correlation One people that you might not know, connecting with them and talking to them is all part of the networking process. So it's not necessarily about just going to a conference and leaving with, business cards or links to their LinkedIn profiles. So networking is really important because about 70% of all jobs are not even published online. So sometimes people get jobs without even having to apply, without even having to, write a resume or a cover letter. And there's research shows that over anywhere from half to upwards of 80% of all jobs are filled through networking. So even jobs, I see a lot of stuff on Slack and on different, on like Discord and on our communities. A lot of people are just post like, hey, my company's hiring for this role, send me your resume in my email. That was never posted online. So because of our huge community at Correlation One, you have a really broad network of people, even in the empowerment program, and the Anaplan program, and the Amazon program, all the programs that Correlation One is continuously building, that is your network. And even it goes beyond Correlation One, of course, but that's a network that you already have of thousands of people that you can leverage for jobs, for access to conferences, for even just like, hey, can you look at my Jupyter notebook, or hey, can you look at my resume and see how it's looking? So networking is really important, even beyond just finding a job. But I'll go into that a little bit more later. But having a strong network is something that I think a lot of people also struggle with because having a strong network and having a big network aren't the same thing. So you can have a really big network of people that are all DS4A or all the Columbia program, or all from your college, or all from your high school, or your school in general. And that could be a really big network, but it's not necessarily a strong network because you're not meeting people outside of who you would have already naturally met. So a good way to actually build professional networks and use them, it can help you with identifying industries and companies you might not have been aware of. So like I said, if you had all, Correlation One, that's not a good example. Correlation One's really big, but say you had all people from your high school and your network, then you might not discover companies or industries that are outside of where your high school peers went. It allows you to practice your communication skills. It provides you with insight into having strong application materials like resumes, cover letters. It helps you to prepare for interviews. So even having a conversation with someone that even if it's not an interview, about what you want to do with your career, that can help you prepare for an interview. Building your professional confidence, and then giving back. So a lot of it, like me right now, I feel like I'm giving back to the DS4A community because I've gotten so much from being a part of Correlation One. So that's like a part of the network. There's a full circle that I've gotten a lot from Correlation One. Now I'm giving back, but then I also gain a lot from still being a part of the network. So even if you're not necessarily looking for a job, there's always an opportunity to give back to the people that sort of helped you get to where you are right now. So a couple components of the LinkedIn profile. I know this is also another annotation one, so I'll skip this, but actually I'll go back. So you don't necessarily have to annotate it, but I'll give it like 5 or 10 seconds. Just think about what you noticed on this profile. This is my profile, and maybe ping it in the live chat, or even just think about it in your head for a few seconds, and then I'll come back and talk. Seeing some stuff come in the live chat. So I think maybe this might have been a trick question, but this is the view that you see when a recruiter looks at your page. So this is not my LinkedIn profile. If you were to go on my LinkedIn profile, it looks different, but this is what a recruiter sees. So I'll go through each of the components in terms of what a recruiter finds important, because they're not necessarily going to click onto your actual profile. They might just look at it on the app, the recruiter portal that they have, and then sort of move on to the next person or reach out to you. So go to the next slide. So a lot of you guys said photo. I think someone mentioned it being a small photo, but yeah, like I said, on my actual LinkedIn profile, it's like a much bigger photo and has like the cover photo and things like that. But from a recruiter perspective, this is what they'll see. It's a very small photo, but the fact that I have a photo is good. They will see a headline. So here are a couple examples of your headline. And your headline is what your brand is. So your headline tells the recruiter and whoever's seeing your profile, who is this person and why are they different from all of the millions of people that are on LinkedIn? Why should I click into their page? Why should I reach out to them? So things that are important to you are what you would want to either tag as a hashtag. So I talk a lot about career pivoting, since I went from chemical engineering into data. But I also really like talking about diversifying STEM. I really am passionate about getting more people from different backgrounds and being inclusive into the tech sphere. And so these are just other examples of different profile headlines. You don't necessarily have to copy any of them, but definitely that's something that recruiters see a lot as a first thing. You also see on the recruiter portal, and when you first click into someone's profile, the about section. So this is really crucial in terms of talking about your skills, talking about what you're passionate about, talking about where you've come from. So I mentioned the fact that it was in a chemical engineering degree, field, but I pivoted into data. I'm a self-taught data professional, and that's all all the stuff that Monica read before, and that sort of is my summary of who I am as a person. So that's really important for someone to, if you meet them for the first time, that's kind of like your 10-second pitch of why you should continue talking to me and to connect with me. And these are just some examples, and I'll definitely have like Oscar or Monica send out the slides later, so don't feel like you need to read this really quickly. And the about section, like I said, it talks about who you are. It's your personal brand. What are your skills? What are your work style? Why are you unique? So like, what is your unique value proposition? Why should someone continue to talk to you? So this is a quick challenge. I won't spend too much time. I guess I'll monitor the live chat a little bit, but think through what your personal brand is from this lens. So in the last week, the last month, the last 6 months, the last year, and even beyond that, what are 5 to 10 things that you've accomplished? And that could be an interesting project, a promotion, it could be the array. And then write down those accomplishments and try to create a headline out of that. And if it's too long, that could be a sentence in your about section. So I'll look at the live chat and I'll give it about a minute. So think about what you've accomplished in the past. Yep, I see the spray. The extended case. Scientific paper. I see Juan's about me section. Okay, a lot of really good stuff. So yeah, continue to ponder and think about what you would either put in your headline or in your about me section. And even sometimes in your resume, there's a little bit, a little bit of space at the top under your name to put a summary about who you are as well, like 1 or 2 lines, maybe just 1 sentence. So that could also go in a place like that. But I'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. So another section that is on your profile, I know that a lot of you all noticed, like in the recruiter portal, you're not necessarily seeing the long list of your experience. A lot of recruiters have, like, you have access to that, but if they're looking through, and I know the statistic is about 7 seconds for a resume, if they're looking through your profile within 7 seconds, those top pieces, like your profile picture, your about me section, your headline, and those are like really all you have enough time to really look at. So spending a lot of time there is really important. And then if they have additional time, they really get interested in your profile based on your about me section, your headline, they might scroll down to your first few experiences. It's important to have it on there because there are different ways that they find your profile based on what you have there. So definitely don't not put it on there. Like, be sure to put information about your experience on there so that they can find you when they search for a research assistant, or when they search for a data science professional, or when they search for the spray, like, they can find you. So make sure you put those keywords. You can also include media. So if you look at my LinkedIn profile for Correlation One programs, I put my data folio, I put my my project information on there, because a lot of times people do click onto that media to get a better understanding of what these projects are. It's similar to a resume, but you can actually put a lot more information on your LinkedIn, which is nice. So definitely do not skimp on the amount of information that you put. And here are just some examples that you guys can look at later. I would also encourage you to look at other profiles that you like and sort of mimic, don't copy, but mimic what they have, because that goes a long way. Another thing is your experience. So I talked about that already. For CS4A and for the Columbia program, be sure to have the correct title, because that's how people will find you, is by similar titles to other people. So, don't say you're an employee of Correlation One when you're not. So definitely do like the Data Science for All Correlation One, or whatever the standardized title is for the Columbia program. Be sure to put that on your profile. Recommendations are also something that you can find on a LinkedIn profile. So I would encourage you all, like, as this program is going through, you're working with project teams, you're working with other fellows, write each other recommendations, because a lot of people actually don't have recommendation on their profile. So when you see one, it does like go a long way when someone has gone out of their way to write you a recommendation. So I would just say, like, if you ask someone for a recommendation, say, hey, I'll write you one back, and that'll sort of help you get those recommendations from other people. And then your featured work and activity. So one of the first things that you'll notice about a profile when you search for their name, so say you were to search for my name in the search bar, you'll actually see this little, and I showed screenshots here of Tanika's profile, but this is what you'll see. And you'll see the activity, like how they've used the app previously. That's like one of their first things. So here you can see her very last post. So I just put this here as an encouragement to use LinkedIn professionally and like use it to your best ability, because if someone's searching for your profile, your last post is what they will see. And so that could encourage them or not encourage them to click onto your actual profile. So like having Tanika winning an award as her last post, like really important milestones, I think are really important to post about on your LinkedIn. It's not necessarily a social media page where you post every day about, you know, what you had for breakfast. So definitely be mindful of that. And then skills and LinkedIn learning courses. This is also really great for when recruiters are looking for people. They'll search by skills. So they'll search by Python or SQL or different skills that pertain to what they're recruiting for. So you want to make sure that you have any and all skills that you have, list them. No skill is too simple. So if you're, you know, PowerPoint, Excel, things like that, a lot of recruiters sometimes just look by that. And so you don't want to be filtered out by not having it. And then your custom URL. So sometimes the LinkedIn automatic URL is not great. Sometimes it has a lot of numbers. So you can actually go in and change your URL to be your name or something easy for someone to copy into like a browser or something like that. So definitely check what your URL is and then edit your URL. All right, and I'll walk through some. I know we're only about halfway through the slide deck, so I'll go through some of the slides in depth, and then I'll leave it for you all to look at later. But using LinkedIn beyond your connections, so you can follow companies of interest. Say you're interested in working at, in this case, Johnson & Johnson, follow them, see when they're posting jobs. You can also see sometimes posts from other employees. Sometimes recruiters actually filter out by people who follow that company. So, you know, follow companies of interest. Join groups. So if you're interested in data analytics, you can join data analytics groups. So this pulls up big data, IBM big data. You can actually just join these groups and get more information. Sometimes people actually post jobs there too. So that can help with narrowing down the amount of people you're competing against if you're in these groups. Write, share, and interact with posts. The more you use LinkedIn, the better it is for you when you need it. So if you're never on LinkedIn, it's going to be very hard to find a job on LinkedIn. But if you use it a lot, it's kind of like Facebook or Instagram or, you know, TikTok or Twitter. The more you use it, the more they can suggest things that you might be interested in watching because they want to keep you on the site. It's very similar to, LinkedIn is very similar to that, but with jobs. So the more that you look at, the more information you'll have towards getting your next job. So I would definitely encourage you to use it as much as you can because you're essentially training the algorithm of your newsfeed. And I'll share a quick story. I actually found my job through the newsfeed. So I did DS4A and I was actually still in the program. And one of the previous alums from cohort 1 posted that he had been working at LinkedIn for 3 months, and he put hashtag DS4A in his post, and so I saw it on my newsfeed, and I connected with him, and then like 2 hours later, a manager from LinkedIn posted that she was hiring, and because I connected with him, and he was already at LinkedIn, I saw that job post in my newsfeed, and I applied to it, and within a couple hours, they closed the job down, it had only been open for like 17 hours, and they closed it after 17 hours, total of being open. And I got a call from the recruiter later that day, and then I got my first interview, and that's how it all started. So had I not been using LinkedIn, I would not have found out about the job. But had I not been connected with people from Diaspora and from different places on LinkedIn, then I also would not have the job that I have now, because I didn't know I could work at LinkedIn before the newsfeed. So just a plug to use it. So another thing that you can use, I don't really use this as much, but you can see how LinkedIn sees you. So if your profile is strong, then you can check what that SSI rate, social selling index is. And the link is just there at the bottom. It could go a long way. I don't necessarily think it is something that like recruiters necessarily care about. But if you like your post to get a lot of likes, you can check your SSI. But being popular on LinkedIn doesn't necessarily get you the job either. So don't worry about that. Okay, I'll go through adding connections, just some tips for how to reach out to people. Reach out to people you know well. So these are friends, family, close classmates, like from Diaspora, professional acquaintances, also from Diaspora, cold contacts. So these are people you might not know. I know some people reached out to me before I even came here, and so that would be technically a cold contact. So definitely different levels of people you can reach out to and connect with. I would recommend you to always have some sort of personal note if you're connecting with someone that you do not know, because people don't know where they know you from. And so a lot of times people won't necessarily accept your connection if they think that they don't know you. So having a quick, like, personalized note will help you actually get that connection acceptance from them. Find contacts on LinkedIn for people that have gone to like a previous institution of study. So if your high school, your college, anywhere that you know might know people from, that's a good way to find people. You can search for people with similar roles that you're looking to go into. So here it says operations analyst. You can find people by the company that you're interested in. So you can go to the company page, and on the company page, you can hit follow, but you can also hit people, and you can connect with people that work at that company. I would definitely still add a message there so that they know to connect with you, and that they don't just think you're a stranger, which you are, but having a personalized message increases your chances of them responding. Yeah, so this is just saying, like, essentially what I just said. You can also find by data science roles if you're on that company page. And I'll go into how to actually reach out. So like I said, if it's a cold connection, how do you actually reach out? Here are some tips. I guess, like, will anyone actually talk to you? It is a social media platform. If you were to, link or try to connect with someone on Facebook randomly, also chances are low if they're going to accept you. LinkedIn's a little bit different. People are a little bit more open because it is professional, but there is still a chance that they might not respond. So the best way to be interesting is to be genuinely interested. So think about it from being interested in what that person is interested in. So informational conversations can give you insight into a particular company's culture. You can learn about the industry. This is really important if you're pivoting into an industry you've never been into before. You want to have an idea of whether or not you'll like it before you go through the process of trying to find the job, applying, and getting the job and working there. Because if you find out a year or two in that you don't like it, then you have to start all over. So doing that research beforehand, sometimes 20-30 minutes is all you need to get an understanding of, do I even want to work in this industry? Do I even want to work for this company? Instead of working there for 2 years. So that's really important to sort of network and understand if that person is really like genuinely happy at that company. They can also give you tips and advice for applications. You can get to know more people. You can follow their career path. You can understand where they're going next if they do decide to leave that company. And then sometimes some people will give you a referral. It's not very common because a part of referrals is them vouching for you being a good employee. And if they don't know you, a lot of people don't feel comfortable doing that because they do have to write about who you are as a person, and which is hard to do for a stranger. So informational conversations is not the time to ask, can you get me a job? That should not be the first question. Informational conversations should be about understanding what you can do for that person as well. So you can reach out to people that in the role that you're interested in, so you can actually learn and discuss from them. But if you're going to do cold outreach, sometimes you can reach out to recruiters and executives directly as well. So here are just some examples. I won't read through all of them, but if you know someone well, here's an example on how to actually reach out to them. And so this will be in the slides that we send over later. And so someone that you know well is either a first or a secondary connection. First, you're already connected with them, but they're a secondary connection if you're not necessarily connected. Professional acquaintances, so CSRA alumni. This could be a good practice for you to, if you haven't connected with me already, you can practice what you're going to write to someone on a cold connection, and you can practice that with me. And I'm not sure how many people will try to connect, but I can try to get back to as many people as possible in like their actual intro message to let you know how it is. And then cold contacts. So these are people that are third degree connection and higher. So people that aren't connected to people you're connected to. So they're third level of separation from you. So this is an example for how to reach out to them. A lot of people do still just want a referral. So there's a way to share why you're reaching out without asking directly for a referral. So here's an example. I'm kicking off my job search soon. It'd be helpful to learn about, and then a list of examples. Your path into data science, how you prepare for an interview. And then sometimes that will allow that person the comfortability for them to actually offer you a referral if they are willing to do so. But you don't want the first thing that you ask is for a referral, because if they say no, then that's the end of your networking with that person. So having a great conversation goes a really, really, really long way, because essentially they would want to work with you, and that's why they would refer you. If they don't know you, they don't know that they want to work with you. So then why would they refer you? Because you're going to end up in the same company that they're working at. So just keep that in mind of you're going to have to work with this person day in and day out, even if you're not in the same group. That having a genuine conversation and a really good conversation with them will motivate them to want to refer you. Just a couple quotes. It's not about who you know, it's about who knows you. So a lot of times people later on in their careers, not even that late at this point, sometimes it's like a few years into their career, they're no longer applying to jobs. People are coming to them because they know about them. So that's really showing how strong their network is, because people are coming to them and saying, hey, we want you at our company, because they know who they are. And don't just network when you're looking for a job. I know I mentioned this earlier, but every professional conversation is a chance to network. So even if you're comfortable in your current job, you can still have professional conversations. You can still reach out to people to help them with their professional journey, and that could be something that that in return helps you later on. So I also put here, give back when you can. You never know when you'll need someone later. So with Correlation One, there's so many different opportunities for you to give back to the community, and you never know when you'll need someone for referral. A lot of people move jobs very frequently, so someone might move to a job that you really want. So keep in mind that you might not need anything right now, but you can give to someone that is in need. Just how to have these conversations. So here are just some examples of good questions to ask and great questions to ask. So you can ask someone, what is the typical background of someone in this industry? Or you can ask, I see from your LinkedIn profile that you transitioned from hospitality to data science. What were the skills you were able to bring with you, and what was most important for you to learn? So those are two different questions that are similar, but it's easier to answer a question that's very specific than it is to answer a question that's so broad. Like sometimes people won't even respond because they don't necessarily know what you're asking. Because what do you mean by a typical background of someone in this industry? Like there's no typical background. But if you ask it very specifically about the skills, then it's easy for me to go in and actually type out some skills, and that starts the conversation. You really want to find a way to start the conversation. Also conducting research before your conversation. A lot of times I get questions that are easily Googleable or easy to find on Google. So you can look at job descriptions, you can look at press releases, you can look at LinkedIn posts, you can look at that person's profile. So sometimes people will ask me like, what did you do before LinkedIn? And and they'll ask me on LinkedIn, and a lot of times I'll redirect them to my LinkedIn because it's on my LinkedIn. So I would ask, like, if you're going to try to start a conversation with something very general, then sometimes it's hard for someone to respond if it seems like you didn't do your research. So definitely connect with someone in a way that that they benefit from having that conversation with you as well. After the meeting, if you're connecting with someone or reaching out to someone, or if you've had that call already, try to end the meeting with a call to action. So they might introduce you to someone else. That's a good way to expand your network, is to say like, oh, hey, I heard you mention someone that you worked with. Can you connect me with them? I heard you mention someone from DS Ray. Can you connect me with them? You can send them an article to read or vice versa. You can ask them for an application that could be filled out, an event to attend. So definitely try to leave the meeting with something to follow up about. Otherwise, that could just end that conversation right then. And you don't want to necessarily just have a one-time connection with this or meeting with this person. About a day later, try to send a thank you note. So this doesn't need to be by mail, obviously. Send them something over LinkedIn or however you connected. So if that was email, just send them thank you for spending the time. A lot of people don't have a lot of time in their days. So the fact that they were connecting with someone they didn't know is just very genuinely nice. So sending them a thank you. Because the goal is to create a lasting mutual professional relationship. And if they never hear from you again, then that's the end of that relationship. A week later, let them know how, if they sent you an article or they sent you, they introduced you to someone, let them know how that went so that you're having two new connections, two new people that you're networking with. And then a month later, share any updates on how you're doing. If you're, in a new job, if you're in the application process, reach out to see how they're doing and if you can help them with something. So that's part of if you have a new friend, even outside of a professional setting, if you just don't talk to that friend ever, then that's not really a friend that you can really call a friend. So it's similar in a professional setting where you want to continue to connect to that person. I have a lot of people at work that I meet with on a regular basis, and we have a recurring meeting on the calendar because I want to keep that professional relationship going even outside of my current role. So and a lot of times it's really nice just to connect with them randomly. So and then keyword here is mutual. A lot of people want to stay engaged with you if you're contributing to their success and not just you asking for help. So keep it mutual between the two of you. Try to add advice or input into how you can help them so that when you're asking for help, it doesn't feel like you're always asking them instead of the other way around. Cold outreach, I'll go through this quickly, but you can look for people who have "I'm hiring" in their headline to identify people who would be open to responding to a cold outreach. So in this case, you search for "I'm hiring" and all these recruiting managers pop up, and then you can just reach out to them. A lot of people, hiring managers, recruiters will sometimes reply. Even executives for smaller companies will reply. It is very low priority for them because they're probably getting a lot of messages, but definitely in your message, focus on what you can do for them. Keep it short, have it fun to read. Don't make it sound like your resume. It is you talking to a real person on the other end. And then stay away from attachments and links and stuff like that. And then be genuinely enthusiastic to be talking to the person because it is the start of a relationship. You can find contact information a lot of different ways. So through LinkedIn, through media and PR, through personal websites, Twitter, even on Slack, a lot of people have their contact information. So that's a good way to cold contact as well. And here are some examples. I won't go through in depth, but these are examples of cold outreach. As you're looking through this later, read them and look through what you think is the best cold outreach example. So this is example A. I'll pause on example B. And then we're not doing this exercise now, but when you look at this later, just read it. And this is example C. And so when you're looking at this slide deck later, just think through what is the best cold outreach example. And yeah, answer this question when you're looking through it. I know some people already have some answers, so you guys are very fast readers. But other ways to connect with people are conferences and events. So there's a lot of different recommendations and resources on the slide. Here are some steps for if you're going to an event. Make sure you plan ahead. Make sure you post on your social media that you'll be there. Because a lot of times people will try to meet you at that conference if they know that you'll be there. So that's a good way to network with people and meet new people. And then while you're at the event, talk to as many different people as you can. Don't just talk to your friends or people that you work with, because the whole goal is to meet new people and then follow up with them. And I will wrap it up since I know we want to leave some time for questions. I will wrap it up with some thoughts. Like I said, think about something you can offer to that person instead of what they can do for you. Make sure your LinkedIn profile is filled out and up to date because a compelling LinkedIn profile will have someone stay on it a little bit longer. The goal is to stay top of mind and learn, not necessarily to get the referral. So sometimes you'll have a conversation with someone and it might not lead to referral, but you might learn so much more from networking with them and being connected with them than you would by just having a referral that goes nowhere. So having those connections are really important. Be respectful of people's time. Don't ghost them. So if they reply to you and to go out of their way to reply to you, reply to them within 24 hours and keep conversations to the scheduled time. So if they say, I have 20 minutes, don't go to an hour because then they'll never meet with you ever again if they don't have a lot of time. And then building relationships takes patience and investment, but it's worth it. So sometimes you'll build a relationship with someone that could take months. You could just be talking to them about their job and they could be asking you about the S4A, and that could take a really long time, but it's worth it. If you're still nervous after this entire talk, just know that you're not being annoying by reaching out to people. A lot of people want to hear from you as well. And professional relationships are really important. It happens everywhere. It's how businesses thrive. And reaching out for informational conversations is very normal. Everyone does it. People love to talk about themselves. I'm enjoying this today. So if you ask them about themselves, and people, a lot of times people want to talk about their experience. Not every conversation will work. So sometimes you might not like the person, they might not like you. It's still productive use of your time because you've learned that, hey, maybe I don't want to work at that company. So that's not a waste of time. Don't take it personally if people don't respond. A lot of people get a lot of connection requests, so they can't respond to everyone. So keep trying. It goes a long way just to keep trying and reaching out to people, and you'll find those people that will respond and will get you to where you need to go. And you don't need to be an expert to ask questions. The whole point of asking questions is to learn. So you don't need to know the answer to the question in order to ask it. So don't be intimidated by the people that you're reaching out to. Everyone started from somewhere. I started from Diaspora. I ended up at LinkedIn. I remember reaching out to people that were doing talks that I'm doing today, and I felt very intimidated reaching out to them. But I got to where I am now, and now I'm here talking to you all. So don't feel intimidated because everyone started from somewhere, and for us, it's Diaspora. So, and then just last slide here is just takeaways. Make sure you sell yourself. You can always repackage and repurpose experiences to fit any job interview. And I had that from personal experience of pivoting from chemical engineering into data, sort of repackaging and reselling what I did in chemical engineering as something that is important for LinkedIn was what helped me get here. Building your brand and communicating that early on in the interview, like letting them really know why they should hire you instead of someone else. What sets you apart from another applicant? Really think through that, and that can go a really long way in the application process. I know I said in some of my interviews, like my superpower is creativity. You're not going to find another person who's more creative than me. And that's something my manager still tells me today is like, you are the creative person in our group. And then relationships really do matter. So the connections you make with people can take you really far. I've said this a lot throughout this talk, so I won't reset. But definitely don't just look at what someone can do for you, but what you can do for them. And that could go a really long way a year from now. But yeah, I think that's all I had. Yeah.
Awesome, Jamila. Thank you very much. It was like great information, super useful. So we have around like 10 minutes, and let's start with our second section. We have very interesting questions on our live chat channel. And
yeah, I've seen that.
like a lot, they're like super active. So let's see our most voted questions. So guys, if you hear your name, remember to raise the hand so we can like give you some spotlight here. So I'm going to call Daniel Ruiz. He was the first person to pose a question. So please join us. Hey, Daniel, are you there? Remember to raise your hand. Here he is. Welcome.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, Jamila, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
I am a civil engineer, and I don't have a previous background in computer science or data science. So the question is about that experience that you had as a self-taught, right? So what do you think are the most valuable, the skills that really worth learning to be a data scientist?
Yeah, so I would say, so actually currently I'm an insights analyst, so not technically a data scientist, but I would say the skill that's most important, and probably also for data science, is SQL. So that's something that is taught in the empowerment program. I'm not sure if it's taught in the Columbia program, but it's very easy to find like online courses through YouTube and things like that to learn SQL if it's not a part of the Columbia program. But it was in pretty much every interview that I did for several different companies is SQL. And it's something that I use every day on the job. So, and it's an easier language, in my opinion, to learn than Python. So if you're learning Python and you're able to do that, and even if Python's difficult for you, SQL might be easier for you. So definitely do not be discouraged. But yeah, I think a skill that you should definitely have is SQL when you're going to the interview process. But also, since you're a civil engineer, if you've used Excel, you can also leverage the fact that you've done that as well as you're pivoting.
Awesome.
Okay,
Thank you very
thank you
much.
very much.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you,
problem.
Daniel. Awesome. So let's move on with our second most voted question. Mauricio Vargas, are you there? Mauricio, are you there? Yes, welcome.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Hi, Jamila. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. My question
definitely.
is, and how many courses and certifications were necessary for you to feel comfortable enough to start applying to jobs?
I think I thought more about the skills than the certification. I think so. What I did was I did data science for all, got the DS for a certificate. But by the time I got the certificate, I was already working at LinkedIn. So I cared more about the skills that I could show in an interview setting than, hey, here's a certificate that I can put on my resume. Because if you don't, you can have a certificate, but if you don't have the skills, say you know, somehow you get through the program and you get that, you know, shiny certificate, but you don't know how to use SQL, you don't know how to use Python and all the other skills that CS teaches you. One, you're not going to get through the interview process, and then it's going to be hard for you to do the job. So I would say if you're feeling comfortable with a lot of the skills you're learning, you don't necessarily have to wait to the end of the program to get the certificate in order to start applying to jobs. I learned a lot through just applying. I learned about the fact that SQL is important. I learned that by applying to jobs and being like, okay, I need to study a little bit more SQL. So you don't necessarily want to wait until you're looking. I think it's important to have like some safety jobs that you are applying to. Even if you don't necessarily, that's not your dream company, you can apply and get practice interviewing, get practice like understanding the technical questions before applying to your dream job. I think that's also something I would recommend. But I would say you don't need a certificate in order to start applying, but the certificate helps once you're like, you know, once you finish the program, it helps a lot too.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Jamila.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you,
but practice,
Mauricio. So,
yeah,
yes,
practice goes a very long way.
Yeah, practice makes perfect. So, guys, let's move on with Joseph Crawford's question. Joseph, are you there? Joseph, are you there? So we're going to give you like another 3 seconds to show up. Joseph Crawford, are you there? Okay, maybe our attendee just like missed the call.
Oh, I see him on.
He's here.
Hi, sorry, I didn't see the option to join as a panelist.
It's okay, don't worry. Welcome.
Hi, welcome. Hi, Jamila, nice to meet you. I wanted
Nice
to
to meet you.
ask you, what is the best way to create and showcase a portfolio in order to land jobs? Because when you don't have like a formal training to be a data scientist, well, how do you get into the business? Well,
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think having projects, so like even before you create your portfolio, having projects to put in your portfolio is the starting point. So, and I didn't really have that. So like I said, I was traveling for a year and a half and I didn't have any projects before DS4A because DS4A wasn't over yet. So I, you know, watched a YouTube video for an hour and a half to learn Tableau, and I tracked all of my spending, and that was my self project. I created a Tableau dashboard to track all of the dollars that I spent while traveling. And that's something I brought up in interviews. I said, here's the dashboard that I created to track my spending, and it helped me to travel even longer. And it was very measurable what I was able to do with my own with my own project, and it really only impacted me. But you can come up with interesting projects like that. Like if you like to spend money, create a budget in Tableau. If you like to play video games, if you like to read books, anything and everything is data. And you can create your own data and then create your own projects around your own data based on what you're interested in. So that's a really good way to create a portfolio, is like, what are you interested in? Figure out a way to create that data, do a quick project. It doesn't have to take forever. My Tableau dashboard for my budget took like 2 hours and I had a project. So having things like that on your portfolio is really important. And then you have DXRay as well. But I know a lot of people said to use GitHub. I didn't have experience in GitHub. So I just put it on my LinkedIn, and I put that media, like different media, under my LinkedIn experience. And you can see under my travel experience, I have like my Tableau dashboard and things like that. So you can also just create a portfolio directly on your LinkedIn if you want as well.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Joseph. So time is running out and we still have like tons of questions. So guys, please follow Jamila's advice and put those LinkedIn, skills to use and connect with her so you can make more networking. And of course, Jamila, thank you very, very much. Awesome insights, awesome presentations. We know our fellows are like super, super excited about this and they learned a lot today. And we hope they put into practice what you told them today also. So remember, fellows, LinkedIn is a very powerful tool and don't miss the chance to use it. So thank you again, Jamila. It was a great pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much. Gracias.
Okay, guys. So remember that we have our little break next. And after that, we're going to have our case Data Cleaning Basics, the workshop portion, and TAs will share Zoom links on their TA channel. Take care and see you soon.